Rolling.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Catch the Sky podcast. Thank you so much for being a part of our family. Speaking of family, we have a family member joining us today. One of our, somebody who actually listens to our show. I don't know if we're going to call you a fan per se. Welcome, B. First of all, B is in the house. B, you want to say hello?
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Heyo.
All right. Would you consider yourself a fan? Answer it that way as you introduce yourself, or just share.
I would definitely consider myself a fan of you, Saif, and of you, Terry.
She's got a shirt.
The show.
There's only like 3 of them in existence. Pretty sure you have the other one and I have the other one, so go on.
Perfect. Go ahead, B.
I love the show. I love hearing your guys' opinions, and your honesty is admirable.
Joe Rogan's been stealing
And
our ideas for a while as well, so you're not the only one that's tuning in. He's got scouts everywhere. Fucking snake.
But if he called us up to the big leagues, we'd call him Mr. Snake.
Absolutely. Yes. I'd call him Mr. Snake, and I'd give him an over-the-pants HJ.
All right. So you say you're a fan. Apparently, T says you have a T-shirt, one of the 3 that are out in existence. But we're working on our whole T-shirt thing.
We got a whole line.
Again, we're still accepting.
Lined up. We got the Cicadas shirt. I also had another T-shirt idea.
The Cicadas shirt.
Yes. There's the Cicadas shirt, and then I also had another T-shirt idea. Always becoming.
ABC.
ABC, baby.
I'm sure nobody else has thought of that.
Oh, God.
So in episode 32, a sports episode turned into chaos, and we ended up talking about death. And then in episode 62, we were recapping on some of our moments in Moab, and death got brought up. Death was ever present going to Moab and then, of course, leaving. And so, B, something caught your ear, and you brought it to our attention, and we wanted to make it today's topic. And today we're going to talk about, we're going to have to define some terms because we're going to get heavy, but we're still going to have fun. We're going to define some terms regarding death, grieving, bereavement, and talk about coping, and hopefully do it in a way that helps some people out there. But we don't always have to be so serious about everything.
This is true.
B, I am so glad you're here to talk about that. Please keep going. Sorry, don't let me interrupt you.
That's okay. Yeah, so I wrote down a couple notes on some of the things that stood out to me about one of the last things Saif said in that Moab episode. And the main theme was transitioning and grieving. I think they're kind of one and the same. People moving on is, just like if somebody died, they're moving on. I mean, that has different definitions depending on what you believe happens to you after you die. But I feel like when people move on into different lifestyles, different friends, different families, even sometimes, that transition should include grieving because it's a natural part of life. And I think it's something that we need to talk more about so that we don't feel ashamed when we need to ask people to help us grieve.
Excellent. T, do you want to respond?
Yeah, well, I think this is probably part of why I've been such a miserable bastard for the past decade is I've just been cutting people out of my life left and right. And so I'm grieving their fucking loss every fucking week because I'm kicking a new person to the fucking curb because I don't got time for this bullshit. At the same time,
T,
I
would you
miss
say
them.
I'm reliable?
You've been reliable so far. You've been reliable, surprisingly reliable. Have you made a decision about Cleveland yet?
I haven't.
Well, yeah.
I'm my herniated disc is really a disruption, and this is also an opportunity just to kind of catch those listeners up, like, and we'll relate because I'm walking around a hobbled warrior, and I'm thinking death's just around the corner at this point.
You
Because,
don't
as I've
even
said
know
before,
how to fucking steer a ducky. You are the farthest thing from a fucking warrior that I have seen
So much
quite
to
some
learn
time.
in so little time.
Yeah. Jesus.
Learning how to row a ducky should be top on your list, Safe.
I told him what to do like 8 different times. He just would not fucking. It was like you're like the opposite of a sponge.
Medicating.
I was too, and I was
was
leading that raft, bro.
I was heavily medicated, just kind of. I felt guilty, more or less. I was like, should I just sit here and let him do the work?
You should, because you were fucking working against me at points.
But
I felt
Safe,
guilty.
That's a good point. That is a good point that you're making about comparing your feelings about being hurt, because we haven't gotten to this part yet, but I work with a lot of people who get injured and stay injured for the rest of their lives, and that's another point of grief, is grieving your past self, grieving a self that is most likely never going to be the same again.
I'm always recalling Al Bundy as a character, recalling his glory days of high school where he scored 4 touchdowns in one game, and how he'll never amount to anything greater. And I think
It's like Uncle Rico.
that's the cultural norm. Yes, it's a cultural norm. It's a character. It's a stereotype. It's a generalization, and it's an attitude that men are given. We got to be tough guys, right?
That is a very consistent theme in our culture.
I agree.
And it's sad because you are pretty much taught, and maybe not forced, but kind of forced to stuff your feelings down, and then when they bubble up, you don't know what to do with them, and most likely it turns into an ineffective
Anger. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this
Turns
is
into
why.
really hostile, shitty anger.
Well, this is why I make sure I express how I feel to you every single time I leave, Safe. This is why
I just don't want you getting into a car accident. Is the last thing I want. So I want you to slow down, T.
Well, I'm talking about just last time after my road trip when I left, it took me like an hour to leave because I couldn't stop fucking crying in the fucking driveway.
You're more expressive with your emotions. I think I envy that you're able to. You seem to cry willingly, with joy. Like it almost seems like you're having a good time over there crying. Is that fair?
Jimmy V said it. One of the things we should do every day. Think, laugh, cry.
That's good, T. It's good.
Think, laugh, cry.
B? Do you want to add to that?
That's actually one of the things that I'm taught in this yoga program that I'm doing. We haven't gotten yet to my resume, but that we should, it's called a body dashboard, and one of the things we should balance our day with is either laughing or crying. It's a way to release the stress in our body that we accumulate every day, and sometimes we don't even know it.
I also feel like
But I totally agree.
this is why sometimes when I'm in moments of confrontation, I start laughing hysterically at the other person rather than taking them seriously whatsoever. I just start laughing in their face, which usually is just like dumping gas on a fire. But Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. So before we proceed any further, B mentioned her resume, and would you like to fill our listeners in a little bit more on your experience before we dive a little deeper into this conversation?
Well, if I may,
sure.
I just want to say that B's cool as fuck. Go ahead, B.
That's at the top of the resume.
Thanks, Saif.
Well, so
No,
you've had a pretty broad depth of experience that you're going to bring to the podcast today, and I'd like you to share a little bit about your educational background and what makes you knowledgeable about this subject.
Yeah, so background about me is I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, which is where I've gotten all of my education.
AZ till we
I
die.
always thought AZ till we die. Seems that way. So I got my undergraduate at ASU, started pre-dental and ended pre-med, but in an alternative medicine type of pre-med, thinking I wanted to become an osteopath or a naturopath. But then I discovered that they didn't do the things that I saw myself doing. And so I went to get my master's in occupational therapy, which is something that you can look up to be defined. But basically, I help people recover from injuries and relearn how to be independent again in their daily lives. And so how that relates to what we're talking about today is that I'm in a program that's teaching me adaptive yoga, and a lot of it has to do with psychology of the mind and learning how to grieve in a healthy way.
Are you thinking that my inability to grieve might be related to some physical trauma from some years ago? Is that a part of that?
It could be. It could be. I think that physical trauma has a way of kind of coming up in situations until we work through all the things that we need to and learn all the things that we're supposed to from it. And then eventually, time heals all, which is cliche, but it's very true.
Or it doesn't heal in Saif's case, and he's going to have to learn to grieve his former Adonis self and learn to adapt to a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of one or the other. My house though is nicely designed for a ramp if I needed to make it ADA compliant. So that I'm excited about.
What ramp? You don't need a ramp. You could just it's already flat. Everything's flat. It's already compliant. You just wheel right in.
It's the best part of Arizona.
Yeah, you wouldn't last a minute here in your wheelchair. 3 floors of action.
How would I guard the water? I'd have to be on a different.
Well, the water does have a ramp going up to it, so we would just post you up at the top. The only problem is that if anybody came and overcame you, they could probably just push you down the ramp, and you'd probably die. Because it's a pretty long and relatively steep ramp.
When I used to work at Walt Disney World, we would guests who were disabled would have a wheelchair, and sometimes they were just a traditional standard, like, oh, I hurt my knee, just your very not your motorized carts, but we got those too, and we would always drive them down the ramp. And one time I crashed one and actually physically it was terrible. This poor family was so upset, but our engineers were able to work on it. If the coaster breaks down at Space Mountain, the guys got to come in and fix the ride. So they were able to look at it and get it fixed right away. And possibly even get her a new chair, because that's the type of customer service model Disney had.
Do you remember
Do
you remember when that guy crashed his fucking golf cart out at whatever campus we were at? And Ken and I had to help him dig it out of the ditch. and you came
That was at the old
outside.
Thunderbird. That was at the old Thunderbird
Yeah,
campus.
and you're like, what the fuck happened here?
That's Arizona Christian University now. It's changed. It's changed hands, and it's now owned. So, but I know we're getting off track as always, which I love, because there's some nuggets in here, and we'll keep some of this stuff B, but we don't always have to keep it B. I want to give you an opportunity though to jump in and get a couple licks in here if you want.
The floor is yours.
Should I go into the 6 stations now?
Or you could chime in on the wheelchair breaking situation or crashing a golf cart, whichever. Maybe you have a.
Yeah, were you ever in a wheelchair or
Well,
crash anybody in a wheelchair?
About good wheelchair story.
If you don't have one, I mean, I don't.
I did not come prepared for
For wheelchair stories, right? Yeah, we did.
It is like it's difficult to make fun of. The wheelchair jokes are just not funny, right? It's no longer a joke. And here we are. No, we're being able-bodied. We're prejudiced against those who aren't physically able. We're almost mocking, but in a fun way. Like we're just here.
No.
Yeah,
Well, safe. I mean, we're
think-
just we're getting ready for your future. Is all we're doing. I'm preparing now.
Yes.
To make fun of you specifically. I'm not going to make fun of all wheelchair people, but you.
No. Yeah, I'm fair game.
Yeah. So
I will have a full head of hair. I think B, you wanted to chime in.
I was just going to say that, I think that talking about people in wheelchairs and the fact that any one of us could end up in a wheelchair at any point, I don't think it should be something that should be joked about, but humor helps people grieve. And, I think something else that popped up in my mind in the way that they are similar is that we fear people in wheelchairs because it's unknown, and that's kind of the same way we fear grief because it's something unknown, something that you wouldn't really know about unless you had a personal experience with someone. I think there's a time and place for joking about all things that make us uncomfortable. It's a way to make it more comfortable, I guess.
it's like anal.
But
Yeah, we're not talking about anal the right way. It should just it should start with just one finger, and then you ease into it. So with that, I'll transition, and I'll openly share. I've mentioned this in previous podcasts, and B, you picked up on this. I only have a small handful of people, who I remember passed away or died, and that I was actually close to, that I felt I should have grieved over, but maybe didn't. Maybe moved on emotionally in the moment and then never came back to it.
Do you feel like that's something that you're experiencing more recently with some of the experiences?
I'm, post Moab, and I don't know if I shared this, but I lost my cousin, and there'll be a celebration of life to honor his memory, and I fully plan on eulogizing this human being who I had the pleasure of knowing. But outside of that, I don't grieve by tears. I maybe cried a little bit, but it's never been overwhelming. And I don't know if that's abnormal. Like, is it possible to not physically cry and still grieve in a healthy way?
Well, I think I brought this up before. Like, my dad didn't cry at his dad's funeral, anything like that.
I think everyone grieves in different ways.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to look the same, just like people don't have to look the same.
Dogs don't have to bark the same.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm just going to mute myself for a second.
No. We prefer that.
No, yeah. Do not mute yourself. We
Okay.
encourage this type of behavior here on the Catch the Sky podcast. I got Frank's bitch ass right here. You hear that? There he is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sucks
yeah.
by my feet too.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Nibbling the toes.
Oh, good boy. Who's a good boy? Oh, Franklin. You're a good boy. So, getting back to our conversation.
Well,
Safe. What do you
Yes.
miss about your cousin? Or what do you admire most from his life?
So I actually just started writing this in my journal today, and I do journal not enough. I really feel I should journal every day. I think that's one trait as far as my ability to cope that I think would benefit.
You got a
And
podcast now.
What I appreciated is I do have a fledgling podcast. We get about 60 listens a pop, so 60 people are going to hear this.
It's
Maybe
probably
more.
more than that, bro. I mean, if you consider we're on Instagram now, we're worldwide, baby.
We are all over. He was younger than me, but he was more mature and he grew up differently. But he is the spitting image of his grandfather, my uncle. And my uncle, Zaid, was a wild, swinging hep cat, and he was the cool uncle who would let me drink with him, who would talk about sex with me when it was, I'm just early 15-year-old boy, just not really giddy and kind of giggling about girls, and he would just have that open dialogue, and it would make you blush, but
He talked about
appreciated
anal
talking
with
to him. He did. He talked. I mean, he was just a cool uncle, and he
sounds
was
like a very interesting guy.
and he definitely made some choices, and he created some families, and he created beautiful families. My cousins are some of the coolest people I've had the pleasure of. I don't hang out with them enough, and I think him moving on is a reminder that I need to spend more time with family or people that I love, right? And I think I'm almost saving my emotion for the big one versus like all the little ones that are kind of passing along, right? I think I'm fearful of not only myself but of my parents, right? My mother and my father, and how I'm going to respond with that. That makes sense.
No,
Yeah.
but maybe the big one will be a little more manageable if you more or less practice these emotions on the quote unquote smaller ones that are passing on. Does that make sense?
I think I am, but I don't. And so it's like I said, it's up to the individual, right? And so every individual is different, and they respond accordingly. I honestly think that I stretch myself too thin, I think is what I want to say. And I think for any of my friends know that, I'd love to just hang out with you exclusively, but sometimes I'm getting pulled into a few different directions, and everybody's trying to get my love. And I don't know, maybe my heart is just strained, holding on to what exists.
Keep going, baby. Express it. What else? What else do you really feel?
I want to give B an opportunity to chime in.
Oh, you were so close, you bastard.
Well, so this clinging that you're talking about, I'm going to start bringing the 6 stations of the mind into this conversation.
Please.
Because this clinging is something that we're taught, especially in American culture. This clinging is compulsory, and you can cling to any of these 6 stations, which include the past, the future, yourself, other, and then your likes and your dislikes, which are also worded as desires and aversions. And so this clinging that you're talking about, a lot of people experience that because, especially when things are going good, you don't want it to change. So you're always clinging to the past when you think about it that way, because change is inevitable, which I'm sure we've all discovered. And so in order for you to enjoy things in the present, you kind of have to let go of the past and the future and all the other stations that I said. From there, if it's okay, I would like to explain these stations in a couple different ways, because there are different ways these stations can lead our thoughts. And these are ways of categorizing our thoughts. And this is part of the grief process that I was talking about, something that we can use, a tool that we can use to understand our thoughts and understand ourselves, and then be more present in the moment. So the adaptive ways to describe these stations, for past, we compare that to learning. So learning from our past would be an adaptive way to use thoughts of our past. The future is preparing, and preparing for, goals, healthy goals.
Well, we know Saif has that covered.
Things that we've...
Saif's
sure
prepared for everything.
From what I've heard.
Yeah.
Is that good. Part of the holding on? I can't throw anything away because I think I'm going to use it, and so then I have a drawer full of junk that we will send out to our fans.
He has 5 VCRs.
4.
No, I thought you went from 6 to 5. What the fuck? They're dropping like
one
flies.
Broke recently.
Did you send one off? Did we have a giveaway?
Well, so let's talk about that.
That's just hoarding.
That is well, it kind of is, and that is a fear. So the maladaptive version of future and preparing is terror, and it's fear of losing whatever. Fear of losing your little trinkets, fear of losing people,
your land.
It's that. Sure, your money, your life.
You're gonna lose me at some point, Saif.
We're gonna miss each other when we're gone.
Well, yeah, I know that, but who do you think? I don't know, man. You've got
you've given me this opportunity to talk about things in such an open manner, and we got B here noting that that my behavior is almost predictable, that there are groups of people out there that deal with it. And so I guess is there a suggested way to cope and to really let go of the pain when grief is encountered?
Yeah. The suggested way is to dive into your community, to develop a community of people that will support you through sickness or health.
Mm-hmm.
People that will share in the grieving so that you don't feel so alone. People that will remind you of what you truly are and what you're truly capable of. People that you consider your allies and who respect your boundaries. So I just kind of listed some more of the adaptive ways. Ally is an adaptive way to think of the other, thoughts of the other. Having agency for yourself, having that groundwork and I can't even think of the word because I'm still learning how to do it. Just developing confidence is what I take from agency in the self category. And then for aversion or dislikes, the adaptive qualities of these thoughts is being able to set boundaries that make you feel safe to do what we're doing here, or to share grief with others, but while protecting yourself. Because like I said, we all grieve in different ways. We all have different needs to be met, and really we're the only people that know what those needs are. And then the last one, desire or likes, the adaptive way, which it sounds like Saif is very good at, is focus, and having a clear focus, clear goals. I mean, even if those goals are, a little bit mixed up right now. Eventually they'll become more clear as long as you move towards them in healthy ways. And then the maladaptive parts of these stations, which maybe you want to cut out of this. I don't know if you want to. You said you didn't.
We'll
really
let T do
get
that.
Too dark. Okay.
But we like the dark.
Okay? Well, good.
Yeah, I love the darkness.
Yeah. So the maladaptive parts of these thoughts, for past, it would be considered trauma. Going through a traumatic event is the most obvious way to describe, past, and we have it diagnosed as post-traumatic stress disorder, but that is arguably, I feel like everyone could arguably be diagnosed with that, because we all go through some sort of trauma that
Agreed.
ultimately defines
Because we're great human beings.
who we are.
We're awesome. We treat each other so well.
Why do you say that in a sarcastic voice, Steve?
Well, because we've hit on this before, and this is a constant theme on this show, is everybody's it seems like fucking humanity is trash. And why?
Yeah, we're wondering if it's worth. We wonder if it's worth. People are worth saving.
If it's worth even fucking putting in the effort.
Quite a bit as well. Yeah, I totally understand that thought.
B, do you ever wish ill intent on anybody?
I definitely have in the past.
Sure. It's honest.
I've gotten a lot better about stopping myself from thinking those thoughts and trying to empathize more with people, because I feel like we're all doing the best that we can with what we have. Even the people that we deem evil, they were taught how to be that way. We all come out of our mother the same way, innocent, and there's genetic predispositions, but for the most part, the way that we treat each other and the way that we live our lives is formed by our culture and our families and the people that raise us. So, with
that was good.
That
was good. That was profound.
The next maladaptive, which we already went over, is the fear, which is the opposite of preparing. For self, the maladaptive definition is fragmentation. And this could be a whole other topic of discussion. The fragmenting some people call it multiple personalities, or just the thing that we do when we become a different person in different environments. Like we treat each other different when we're at work versus when we're hanging out with our friends, and it's looked at as a maladaptive way to thought process the self, because it's not really an honest way to live.
Yeah, like there was a hot minute, Safe, where I thought that I would try to keep up some sort of radio voice persona and talk like this all the time on the podcast. But that's not really going to happen because I don't really fucking talk like this, do I? Like,
no, and I'm really glad you don't.
You're right.
I don't think the listeners may know this, but sometimes we struggle to find our own voice on this podcast.
Yeah.
And we got to do a second take.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It happens.
Words are hard to find a lot of the time. You want to find the right words.
And that is one thing that I've actually learned from Safe through doing this whole process, is taking that extra moment to just breathe and think before you speak will cut out a lot of the ums, the you knows, the just awkward pauses and things like that.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Jelly bean.
Yeah.
I feel like is one that it's part of my vernacular and I can't seem to shake it right now. It's
You're all right.
so ever present.
Trust me, I do the editing. You're pretty good at it. But breathing is something that we'll get into a little bit more later on, potentially.
Why don't we do it?
We can do it. B's an expert in
Ready
breathing,
for this?
correct?
Yeah, let's guide our
I'm
listeners through
trying-
a meditative.
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
maybe give
Trying
us a
to-
little background on how important breathing is just in general and how important practicing and controlling our breathing is.
Well, we have to breathe to live.
Step one, we have to breathe
Another cliche
in order
thing
to live.
say.
Water is life.
But it's funny because a lot of us aren't really taught how to breathe in a way that helps you. The closest I think we come to teaching most people in America how to breathe is by promoting exercise, which is a really great way to get yourself to breathe in a deeper way, because then you won't feel like you're dying. But I have just found that learning this breath work and teaching it to people, I'm getting the most positive responses I've ever gotten out of therapy sessions. And I'm just adding a 3 to 5 minute mindfulness, where I just take them through just noticing the breath, and it calms the nervous system. I could come up with a more physiological definition in the future if you want it, but that's the main thing, is it just takes you inside your body and shows you how to relax it.
I always assume because I do yoga and Pilates that I'm doing it correct. And I don't think I breathe enough, but I know I smoke cigarettes. And that sensation I got, that calming feeling, as I recall now, was me breathing excessively.
You sound like Darth Vader.
I think a better version of Darth Vader, though.
Yeah. Yeah, much sexier Vader.
I do want to note that this conversation always seems to be upsetting, and you'll even see that people don't say that someone died. They say that they passed away or became an angel or went to glory or some other euphemism. This is a taboo topic for many people, and it makes people extremely uncomfortable. And I'm really grateful to have people in my life who are willing to engage in that conversation, because this is so important. And we probably didn't take a lot of things too serious in the past, because living till you were 78 wasn't expected. And now that we're experiencing longer life expectancy, that idea and that concept is ever present in our head. And I hope that you'll take some of the considerations and some of the tips and the tools that we've kind of shared. The tips and the tools that we've shared on the show. And let's end with this meditation.
Let's do it. B, guide us. She's gone.
Did we lose her on the call?
Actually, I don't know. We may have. Oh, hang on. Yep. She just texted me. B, you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. You needed water anyway. Nice. Saif, what the fuck were you talking about? Just in the last minute and a half?
I was asking let's end this by guiding through the meditation.
Well, yeah. Well, I know that. Oh, we're just getting right back in the conversation. All right, go on. I was talking about
Yeah.
in between these phone calls. Like what?
Oh.
Yeah. I was cutting back to some wild shit. I don't know what you were saying. I called her and I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about right now on the other line, but
No, I was saying B. I was like, she probably didn't want to hear me rant. And she was like, fuck this guy. I'm done listening to this shit.
Bye.
This guy's an asshole.
right, bye. Oh my God. Holy shit. All right.
Click.
Oh my God. I feel like I gotta leave some of this in. I'm just fucking cracking up. All right.
But I wanted to end with B guiding us through the meditation. So whenever you're ready, B.
Yeah.
We do that, and that's the bow tie.
Oh my goodness.
Ready.
All right, we might have to do 2 takes of this.
That's all right.
Be patient with me. Or please be patient with me. I should ask. I'm not telling you to do anything. Okay, so guys and everyone that's listening, I just want you to start this meditation by finding a comfortable seat in a chair or on the ground. And if it's comfortable for you, I want you to close your eyes, or else just keep them open but look down at the ground and focus on one thing.
Do not close your eyes if you're driving.
Do not close your eyes if you're driving. Thank you. Very safe and considerate. So as you start to notice yourself in your seat, bring your attention down to your hips in your seat. Notice where your feet are. And notice the breath coming in and out of your lungs. Without trying to control your breath, just notice how it feels when you inhale and where you feel it in your body. And then as you exhale, try to relax your body down into your seat a little bit deeper. As you inhale, further try to feel in your body where the breath goes, where the oxygen flows. And then as you exhale, try and relax your body, keeping it upright, but allowing the parts of the body that are touching the chair or the ground, let it get a little more grounded as you exhale. So in this guided meditation, I'm going to give you a superpower. But like any super person who has just discovered these powers, you will come to find that practice is the key to keeping that power. The best way to describe this power is comparing it to a dimmer switch. Imagine when you breathe in, you can focus on an object clearly. And when you breathe out, you can slowly dim the intensity of that object. So as you continue to breathe over and over, the intensity of the object is a little dimmer each time until eventually it's void and you've moved on, taking full power over this thing. So I want you to focus this thing a little more closely into something that you're grieving. You could think about the actual thing that is being lost, or you can focus on a thought that pops up to summarize the grief that you feel. Start to notice how this thing or this phrase makes you feel throughout your body, just as when you were inhaling focus on this thought and see how that feels in your body. Notice how your hips feel, any different or the same as when you weren't thinking specifically on this thought. Notice if your breath feels any different in your lungs. And lastly, notice how your heart feels as you think about this. And now as you bring your attention back to your breath, try to think about this thought in different ways. Try to categorize the thought into the 6 stations that we discussed. Maybe you're thinking about a loss of relationships, which could correlate with the station of other. Maybe you're combining a couple stations and grieving the loss of a past self. Or maybe you're grieving a future that you once dreamed for yourself, but doesn't seem attainable anymore. Maybe you're recently injured and grieving the loss of that ability to do the things that you want. Whatever the thing is that you're grieving, just try to categorize it in these 6 stations of the mind. And tell yourself that it's normal to have these thoughts, no matter how dark or light that they are. So I want you to bring that focus back to how you're feeling now after categorizing that thought. Notice again how your hips feel, how your feet feel on the ground. How does your breath feel? Does it feel any deeper? Did it make your heart race a little bit more? Notice how your heart feels after thinking about it for a little while. So now imagine this thing that you are grieving is lit up as a neon sign on your street. So choose the thing, could be obvious about it, or the thought. I'm not enough is a thought that often pops up in my brain. Or it's too much, especially when I'm grieving, I feel it's too much. So whatever your thought or thing that you're grieving, find it as a lit up sign, as if you're looking out the window and you see it just shining in front of your face. And try to think about a color that describes the feeling that this thought gives you. And imagine that the sign is that color. To be honest, the light from this sign is pretty annoying and blinding. But don't lose your focus and try to continue to notice how it feels when you see the sign and you think about what's written. This is where we use our superpower. So as you're looking at the sign, bring your attention back to your breath. As you inhale, notice how clear the sign becomes in your vision. And as you exhale, allow the deflation of your lungs to assist in slowly dimming the brightness and the intensity of the light. As you breathe in, the message becomes more clear. And as you breathe out, you release more of that annoying intensity and allow the sign to look softer, more comfortable. And now as you breathe in, allow your eyes to get softer. Try to relax with this knowledge of your superpower that you have the ability to make grief and loss less intense. Take 3 more breaths, and this time make them a little bit deeper breaths. And imagine the dimming the light of your sign with each exhale. But remember to take comfort in each inhale as you clearly see what it is you're grieving. As you finish these last breaths with each exhale, use your power to dim the intensity and surrender the grasp that you have on this loss. Now we're almost done. Don't lose focus. After your 3rd breath, let the visualization go. Come back to an empty brain and just feel your breath again. Feel the breath coming in through your nostrils up to the roof of your mouth. And then feel your lungs deflate as you exhale. Notice how your body feels now. Bring your attention back to your hips and your feet. Notice how your breath feels in your lungs. And notice again how your heart feels. As you take these last breaths, try to make a body memory, something that you can come back to and remind yourself how powerful you are. The breath is something that brings you comfort in your time of loss. And it can be something that gives you hope that you can move on from this thought in a healthy way. And then you can slowly open your eyes and orient yourself back into your space. I appreciate this opportunity to help you guys clarify what it is you're grieving so that you can better communicate it to the people that you trust to help you move on from it.
Namaste.
Yeah. What'd you say? Did you say namaste?
I did.
Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you, babe. We appreciate that. And I hope all of our listeners out there appreciated the change of pace to the end of our episode this week. We will probably be having Beyond for future episodes. And if you care to comment or interact with us more, you may do so on Twitter at CTS Terry or at CTS Saif. Or you may search the Catch the Sky podcast on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or wherever podcasts are listened to. But before we wrap this episode up, I'll open up the floor to you guys. Saif, anything else you wanted to hit on before we conclude things here?
Rally the valley. Tell your friends. Tell your family.
Rally the valley.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, grab your wife, grab your kids, because they're rallying the valley out here. That play was so sick. Oh my God.
It was sick. And I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to come in and share my opinions and things that I'm learning and hopefully help people feel better.
That's the goal here.
In our world.
That's the goal. Yeah. We want constant improvement for ourselves and everybody else. Yeah. We want anybody listening to this to hopefully take something away from this today, especially this episode. So we appreciate you tuning in, and B, thank you for joining us. Safe, as always. Until next week, keep trying to catch the sky.